And now, you're tuned in to RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's Reveler Sports.
Hello, everyone out there in Tampa Bay and beyond. This is James Knowles coming at you for the RBLR Sports Podcast. I am here today, not tonight, to cover the Rowdies. We are going a little early tonight because Carlos and I have some scheduling restraints, but we did want to get our show in because, Carlos, there's a ton to talk about today. So before we get into any of that, how are you doing?
James, I'm doing well. It's Tuesday afternoon, 4:42 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Like you said, earlier than usual. Lots of stuff going on in the Rowdies world. So I'm really, really excited to get going on this. Player signings, there's Open Cup stuff, which we'll save to talk about next week because there's so much to talk about there as well. New coach, question mark? That's new today. Some departure news as well on that front. Stadium stuff. Like there's so much going on, James. This is the first full week of preseason. So it's great to see the Rowdies social media put out that content yesterday, the beeper test that Lewis Hilton very predictably won. Again, truly an Iron Man for this squad. I mean, it's beginning to feel a lot like Christmas, right? If Christmas is the beginning of the season, which for me it is, we're coming up on it. Another, well, not another, it feels like the first really full week of Rowdies player news where we can just talk about Rowdy signings and fill up the episode. It's exciting. It's exciting. How are you, James?
Yep, I am doing well. I've still got my Gasparilla mustache going. The beard is coming back in ever so slowly, but we make do with what we can, obviously. And this week we have a lot on the Rowdy side of things, so that clears up my mind in relation to everything else because, this is kind of like Christmas. It would be good if we had some of these. It would be good if we had some of these things under the Christmas tree, let's say, beforehand. But I don't mind getting them at the end of January and coming into February. It's actually kind of nice.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it is good because just as we mentioned, the Rowdies open preseason camp. This is their first full week of training. Most of these players then are getting to take part in their first training with the Rowdies overall. Some of them obviously are joining a team that is well established and has been around for a little while now. So they're probably just getting to meet each other and hang out, all that kind of stuff. And of course, do a beep test, which is terrible, but good for Lewis Hilton. I am glad, I was never that good of a soccer player, and I'm happy, at least in one respect, that I do not have to do any of those beep tests. Those suck. Why don't we get into the coverage for the Rowdies? Before we do that, please like and subscribe to us on YouTube or any major podcast platform. And of course, please follow us on all social media. Wherever you are, we are at RBLR Sports. Carlos, let's do the Rowdies now. We have signed 2 new defenders for 2025, and they will complement our previously existing set of, let me just make sure I got this right, Aaron Guillen, Forrest Lasso. We talked about Lawrence Wyke previously, and I'm forgetting somebody. But go ahead with the signings.
Okay, James. Lots of names here. Not lots. It's 3 names, which feels like a lot for the Rowdies offseason in one episode. Defenders, wingback Joey Skinner has joined the Tampa Bay Rowdies this offseason for the rest of this season. That was a dumb way to introduce that. Joey Skinner. I'm really, really excited about this guy. He looks to have some great potential at the wingback spot. Definitely going to give Blake Bodley some competition. So I'm really, really excited about him. We'll come back and talk about him in just a little bit. He comes over from Huntsville Stadium, where he was on loan from Nashville. Obviously, Huntsville is Nashville's affiliate team. Is that what we're calling them these days?
I guess so.
Yes, but on loan, make of that what you will. So he was over at Huntsville, coming to the Rowdies now. Again, I think he's going to give Bodley some great competition for that wingback spot. A familiar name here that you'll recognize, James, is Robert Castellanos. He's also making his way to the Rowdies for this season, but obviously this is a name who is making a return to the Rowdies. Robert Castellanos played with us in seasons prior. He was on loan from Nashville back in 2022, where he appeared in 10 games. If you recall, he had that very early injury that season, in the season that felt like it was riddled with injuries. Zach Arevalo, Castellanos, that might have been the Leo Fernandez injury season as well. Castellanos was a part of that early injury group. made his way back to the lineup late in the season where he started in 10 matches and even scored a goal in that 2022 season. Had some great matches for us. I'm really, really excited to have him back. Again, we'll come back to him in just a minute. And I'll give you the third signing, James. Wubin Pacius. I think I said that right. That's how the announcer said it in the highlights I watched, which I thoroughly enjoyed yesterday. Wubin Pacius is coming to us on loan from Nashville for the 2025 season. So seems like we've made a great friendship with Nashville.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah, Joey Skinner obviously coming from Huntsville in a permanent deal, but Wubin Pacius obviously coming on loan again from Nashville. Played 17 games for Huntsville City, so should be familiar with Joey Skinner. That's probably a fun reconnection to make down in Tampa Bay. Scored 8 goals for Huntsville. Again, I'm going to save all my thoughts as we go back and kind of go name by name here to see what you think, James. But early preview, I'll give you that Wubin Pacius, really, really exciting looking player. And if you saw what I put out on Twitter yesterday, I linked his highlight video. It's like a 2022, assists and goals compilation from his time in the CPL. This guy it passes the eye test is the way I described it. I mean, really, really exciting stuff. I'll save all my thoughts for him. I just want to put that preview out there. This guy's exciting. I'm really excited to come back and talk to him. But let's go in order, James. Let's go in order of how they came out. The first two we have listed down here are our new defenders. Joey Skinner. James, initial thoughts, Joey Skinner. Did you know anything about him before the signing? Was he on anybody's radar? More importantly, what do we think he's going to be able to bring to this squad this year?
Yeah, I did know about him from before the signing. As I have said multiple times here, I'm one of the few and probably weird people who continues to watch college soccer, but it is largely for reasons to see who the players are that could end up going professional. And now that there's a women's team, there's even more reason, I guess, to do that, because it's probably an easier jump from the women's side in college soccer to the professional side, at least at the USL Super League level. But that's neither here nor there for what we're talking about at this moment. Let's get back to that. I saw Joey Skinner playing in his second college season for Clemson. And if I'm not mistaken, back then, he was the left-sided player in a back three. So think of Aaron Guillen. I think that he is going to provide a good bit of competition both for Aaron Guillen and for Blake Bodley, just like you said previously, as the left wing back. He might be a little more centrally based as far as I can remember, but of course, people can change a lot from college and often do get moved around when they leave college and join the professional game. I can't say that I know where he's been playing a lot recently. He joined us, as you previously mentioned, from Nashville, where he was mostly on loan at Huntsville. Keep in mind, for everybody who is listening, that Huntsville was previously coached by Nicky Law, an assistant coach to Robbie Nielsen in the 2024 campaign. So that's something to keep in mind. Also, we'll return to that a little bit later. Preview, yeah. I guess. But yeah, so I don't know exactly where he was playing for Huntsville City. I let my subscription lapse for Apple's MLS whatever thing, so I could not see any MLS Next Pro games that weren't on YouTube, and I guess I just didn't catch a ton of those anyway. Regardless, this does look like a good pickup. He joined MLS originally as a Generation Adidas player. That is for players who were deemed good enough to leave before they were a senior, before they were ready to graduate, quote unquote. And he didn't quite make it at Nashville, obviously, because he has left them. But at the same time, he had a pretty good record, 42 appearances as far as I can see for Huntsville, and has some familiarity, like we have mentioned, some familiarity at least with Nicky Law. So there's that to go off of. And I mean, I like this general type of player, and by that I mean, Carlos, we have seen a lot of players join MLS from college level, and they don't quite make the MLS grade. They're almost on the first team. They're guys who are regularly on the bench. They're possibly substitute appearance makers, or in this case, people who just never quite got off of the MLS Next Pro bench or the MLS Next Pro team and onto the bench. I think we have seen a lot of those guys join the USL Championship and really, really do well. Goalkeepers and defenders, especially, have done that in the past. So I'm not. I'm without saying that I know what Joey Skinner is all about. Without saying that I am super familiar with Joey Skinner. I am feeling pretty good about this signing, and I think that he's going to contribute a lot. I especially think, depending on the formation, we'll see if we stick with three at the back. Probably looking like we might at this point. But if we do, I think that we're going to see quite a bit of Joey Skinner coming up in 2025.
Yeah. 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 Based on what I've seen, it looks like he's been playing more out to the left, but he certainly seems like a utility player that, like, hypothetically, if needed, can fill in at one of like in the Aaron Guillen spot, right? So certainly a good type of player to have, if nothing else, for that depth and utility. But I think Joey Skinner could be more than just depth and utility. I just think that's an additional thing to note here, that he definitely seems to be able to move around as needed.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm just looking through some of his stats from his last few games, and him and Pasillas have been playing in like most of these Huntsville games together. So this is pretty fun, actually. I didn't even make the connection until we started recording that. Oh, wait, we're going live. That they're actually coming from not only just the same, system, but quite literally the same squad and same starting 11. So that's got to be pretty fun. So I'm glad we're making this friendship with Nashville. Shout out to Nashville, Tennessee, I guess. Yeah, Joey Skinner looks to be pretty exciting. Like you said, I think he can give not only, I was just mentioning Blake Bodley some competition. You mentioned Aaron Guillen some competition. This is really, really fascinating. So we've got Lawrence Wyke now at the back. We have Aaron Guillen, Forrest Lasso, Robert Castellanos, who will be interesting to see kind of if he can make his way into a starting lineup role with Wyke, Guillen, and Lasso, traditionally maybe being the first three we think of for the back three. Maybe we move to a back four. Who knows? I mean, it would be kind of a switch up from what we've been doing for the past several years at this point. Mm-hmm. Either way, no matter what we do, Joey Skinner, I think, will be valuable because of the utility I've been mentioning. But certainly looks like he can get upfield. He had 5 goals in his time with Huntsville, several assists as well. He can get the ball up the field as a fullback and as a wingback based on what I'm looking at here. So, yeah, it looks pretty exciting, James. I'm really, really thrilled about this one. We've mentioned how we need depth. I think this is not only depth, but starting quality, dare I say, starting competition quality. Maybe we just throw the competition in there. We'll have to see how this all plays out. But this is a guy who certainly makes our squad better. So I'm really, really excited. This is a great place to be with the back line now. And we haven't even talked about Castellanos yet. Hold on. Anything else on Skinner that I might have mentioned that might be important, James?
No, I think we're good to move into how this other signing might fit into our potential formation, because just like you said, there's the option of 3 at the back or 4 at the back. Yeah, I'm leaning towards 3 at the back with wing backs like we have had. But this guy, someone that we're all familiar with, or at least if you were following the Rowdies from 2022, so not that long ago, this is another good development for a back 3 if that's the way that we end up going.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, wait, by the way, last thing on Joey Skinner, was he a national champion with Clemson, James? You're the sicko.
That I don't remember offhand. Let me just pull
it
up real fast. I'm going to say that I don't see that he was. I don't see that he was, but he might have been, I guess.
2021, 2020. Clemson's been like winning.
I don't remember when Clemson. Yeah, I don't remember when they won it.
Yeah, they're always in the mix. I get confused on when they're. By the way, guys, if you're not watching college soccer, really get in on this. This is fun stuff. Like, we get Joey Skinner from it. Okay, to the guy you were talking about before I got distracted by Clemson soccer, Robert Castellanos. Again, we mentioned him not only signing for the Rowdies, but making his return to the Rowdies after a whole season stint with us in 2022. What might have felt more brief than it actually was because of the early injury for him. Again, got plenty of starts towards the end of the year when he was healthy. Came back in and helped us make our run in the playoffs, which was a little short-lived, unfortunately, but still was involved in that as well. Castellanos. Okay, James, what do we know about Castellanos since he's left the Rowdies? He had a few different stints, like had a random move to a Finnish team that I won't pretend I know how to pronounce. Didn't make any appearances over there. Don't know what happened. Made his way back to the States and played 26 matches for Sporting Kansas City. Not Sporting Kansas City too. We're talking about the MLS squad here. I'd be lying to you if I said I knew exactly how the 2023-2024 season went for Sporting Kansas City. So I'm not quite sure if it was, a great performance for the squad as a whole. Nonetheless, he was playing MLS minutes for 26 matches and even scored 2 goals. Very, very fun. I always love a center back that can get up and make a header happen, especially with Forrest Lasso, on the back line. If we add Castellanos to the mix, that's pretty fun. Have a good rotation there of header goals. After that, I guess during his time in Kansas City, he had 4 matches for Sporting Kansas City too, before making his way back to the lovely Tampa Bay area now for this 2025 season. James, what do you think about this signing? What are your first impressions? Again, was this maybe on your radar? I kind of forgotten about Robert Castellanos. He had been a great addition to the squad in 22, and I was really, really excited about him. But after he left, I didn't really think much of it, and I totally forgot he might have even been on the market for a new squad. What do you think about this one?
Yeah, this is another one of those guys that's kind of like Joey Skinner, but a little bit more advanced in his age. So he came from a position where he was on that MLS roster bubble again. But actually, for him, what that meant as someone who is 26, turning 27, he was the guy who was getting off the bench a lot more. And just like you said, the last 2 years he spent with 23 and the 24 seasons with SKC, and actually getting a lot of good minutes there. So that's really positive. If this is somebody who is MLS minutes worthy, we're almost certain that he's going to be able to come to the USL Championship and make a good impression. Also, we know that a little bit more because we had him previously in the Tampa Bay Rowdies roster. It should be noted, also came on loan to us from Nashville. Very interesting, this little thing that we're developing. But we didn't sign him directly from Nashville this time around. So he came in on loan during the 2022 season. If anybody is unaware, that is when Forrest Lasso spent his 1 year in Sweden away from the Rowdies, and then obviously has since returned. I'm assuming that Forrest Lasso will not be available roughly until May. It could be a little bit longer. We'll have to see just because of that ACL tear. So assuming that we stick with 3 at the back, which I imagine with Forrest Lasso being on this roster and the players that we're signing, that does tend to make a little bit more sense. Aaron Guillen will most likely take up his position on the left side. And then I'm assuming to start the year, Robert Castellanos will be the center of the center backs, and Lawrence Weick will be the guy on the right. That would allow Aaron Guillen and Lawrence Weick to get forward, which both of them have done in the past, and we have seen them do actually pretty well with that. And in the meantime, obviously, it fills in 2 positions that we were immediately missing, which is Forrest Lasso because of his injury and Jordan Doherty having gone to Wraith Rovers. Poor guy in Kirkcaldy, Scotland. However, when Forrest Lasso gets back, assumedly, again, May, June, probably somewhere around that time, then Robert Castellanos can slide out to the right side of those 3 because he is a little bit shorter than Forrest Lasso, and Forrest Lasso is left-footed, so putting him in the center probably makes more sense than putting him out on the right, obviously. And at the same time, Lawrence Weick then can move forward a little bit if we need into the midfield, maybe as a right wing back, maybe as depth to all 3 of those positions, because we have seen him play alongside Lewis Hilton in the past. Carlos, you and I were pretty happy with that when it happened. And we have seen him do well also as a right-sided defender, or sometimes even as a right back / right wing back. So if I had to guess, that is what I'm going to assume. And if our backline turns out to be Aaron Guillen, Forrest Lasso, and Robert Castellanos over the course of the summer, and as we move into the months where we're getting towards the playoffs, I really think that's one of the potential best defenses in the USL. Of course, depending on form, of course, depending on injuries, because those are 2 big caveats, especially the injuries, as we know.
Yeah.
But yeah, Carlos, this has me feeling pretty good. These last 2 moves, I got to say.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think you summed it up well. And you know what? That's a great point because While I'm obviously conscious of the Forrest Lasso injury, it didn't really occur to me the timeline until you just mentioned that about when that return might actually happen, even if he's, on the field in a month or two. Um, how comfortable are we throwing him into a game,
Right.
after like getting into a few training sessions and whatnot? Yeah, so that's a great point. I think Robert Castellanos more than adequately fills that role temporarily while Forrest Lasso gets back into shape, into form, right? That'll be really interesting to see, I think, how that back three looks post Forrest Lasso recovery. I think it's really, really fascinating. Not problem. It's not a problem. It's an interesting situation. I don't know. It'll be fun. It'll be fun to watch because who do you bench, right? Or do you
Yeah,
move, like you said, do
exactly.
you move Wyke up? I mean, it's a really, really talented four that you're picking for a back three. And maybe even you throw Joey Skinner into the mix for that back three. But I do think he'll be more focused on the left wing back spot if we're running the same system, right? So if you're choosing between that back four, it'll be really interesting to see. Or if you're choosing between those four for the back three, sorry, it'll be really interesting to see how Nielsen approaches that. So we'll keep an eye on that. Obviously, hoping Lasso comes back as soon as possible. But until then, I guess the back three is pretty easily set for now, we could say, right? We have Guillen on the left, presumably Castellanos in the middle, and Wyke on the right. And that's a fantastic back three already. So I can only imagine how much better we'll get with Lasso back in the mix. I wonder if that means Castellano comes onto the bench as a depth piece for Forrest Lasso, or I'm not sure. It'll be really fascinating. But either way, fantastic to have him on the squad. He'll get immediate playing time, like we've been mentioning. So I think this will be really good for him and even better for the Rowdies, truly. I was really excited, like I said, about his joining us in 22. Unfortunately, it wasn't for as many games as I would have liked.
Yeah.
But, injuries happen. Hopefully we don't have another one.
Injuries again. We always got to keep an eye out because injuries are going to happen.
I think it was specifically that game against Birmingham Legion early on in the year that knocked him out, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, wow. That's a great memory, Carlos. You're right.
I'm remembering that pretty clearly because I was so excited about Robert Castellanos. He's just a really, really exciting type of player. Another Hispanic to add to the back line. Like it's just like I love myself like an Aaron Guillen or Robert Castellanos. These guys I can talk in Spanish too about the back line. And so unfortunate to see him get knocked out early on in the season. But we're back. He's back, and I truly could not be more excited. And I'm so upset with myself that I didn't throw him in my wish list when we talked about this early on several weeks ago when we were talking about offseason signings that we'd like to see. Robert Castellanos should have certainly crossed my mind. So
it kind of caught us by surprise with this one.
Yeah. And going forward into next offseason, maybe we should be looking into like the cream of the crop of the Huntsville players. Maybe we can start putting them on our wish list because apparently that's like a pipeline we have going on now. So shout out to Nashville, I guess. The first interaction with Nashville SC I can think of was Matt Pickens going to Nashville. So maybe we can credit our friendship with Nashville to Matt Pickens leaving in 2018, 2017.
Before the MLS days, I can imagine.
Yeah, they were in the USL still. They were certainly in the USL still. Okay. My girlfriend, the FC Cincinnati fan, is spamming me with thumbs downs because she doesn't like Nashville. So I'll stop saying we're friends with Nashville. James, I think that's about it for Castellanos, right? Anything else we can mention here?
I think we've hit this one as good as we can right now.
Yeah. In summary, super exciting. Super duper exciting. He'll be starting. So just get excited about that. This will be a player that's starting first minute of the season. And deservedly so because he's pretty exciting. Exciting player. By the way, I had no clue that he played some youth career soccer for America in Mexico. I'm looking at his career history, and that totally missed me early on. All right, well, there you go. James, one more player to talk about here for the offseason signing wave that we got in the past week. And I mentioned it earlier. I was really, really excited to talk about this guy, Wubens Pacius. Please do yourself a favor if you have, 10 minutes later today, look him up on YouTube or go to my tweet or my ex post, my Xeet. There's a YouTube link in there that I included from his 2022 CPL. I think it's like goals and assists for Forge FC potentially, if I'm remembering right. This guy is, first of all, pretty big for a striker. He's 6'1". So, kind of the Arteaga type of build, right? He's got the Arteaga build, but he moves quicker than Arteaga. He can sprint past your back line in the blink of an eye. But more importantly, his finishing is tremendous based on what I saw. He seems to be in the right position when he needs to be, and he can just maneuver around a few defenders like nothing. Rip a shot from outside the box, rip a shot from right in the box. He can finish from outside the box, in the box. He can finish with his head. I'm really, really excited about this guy. And again, he's got a good build that can body off a defender too if he needs to play physical as well. It's kind of like a target man. He seems to be a forward that can play in several different types of systems. So I'm really curious to see how Robbie Nielsen decides to use him in our system. Are we going to go back to a two-striker type of system like we had with Cal Jennings and Arteaga, which was really fun and highly successful? I could see that working with Pacius because he is so he's a utility man up top. He can play in all these different types of systems, and like I said, because he's so physical, because he's so quick, he can just kind of do it all. So I think if we run with that, it could be super successful. I'm really excited for him. And for the squad to add him. I'm always scared of these loans now, James, because it seems to be whenever we have our best moments with a loanee, they get recalled pretty soon.
Yeah.
So I don't want to get too attached to Wubens Pacius already, understanding that, Nashville might recall him after his inevitable hat trick to start the season. But for the moment, I'm very, very excited about this signing, and everyone else should be too. And I think you will be once you watch these highlights. It's pretty exciting stuff to watch live. It's entertaining soccer. That's the most fun part about it. He's going to bring goals, but it's going to be fun to watch too. So, I think this will fit well in the system. He can get on the end of crosses with his head as well, which we seem to like to do a lot with our wing backs. If we're not really changing anything from our attacking approach from last season, this is a really, really good addition. James, I will say this is someone who I quite literally have never heard of before his signing with the Rowdies. I can't say I keep up too much with the Canadian Premier League or MLS Next Pro for that matter, right? I'll ask you again. Is this someone you heard of before? I'm going to take a stab and say he probably wasn't on your Rowdies radar. But is this someone you've heard about, have background on, or more importantly, again, what do you think his role will be on this 2025 Rowdy squad?
Yeah, I had heard of Wubens Pacius. He kind of burst onto the scene in the Canadian Premier League with Forge because this wasn't somebody that I knew ahead of time. Looking through it again, he was in the Montreal Impact CF Montreal Academy, whichever name you want to go with. Ultimately did not get signed to any first team contracts, as I'm sure anybody listening can imagine here. And then when he joined Forge, whatever reputation he had, because Forge is by and large the best team in the Canadian Premier League, he hit the ground running with them and immediately started scoring a lot of goals. So he was somebody that must have had some type of reputation even before all of this. And I'm excited to see exactly what he can do for the Tampa Bay Rowdies. I think that he will probably be. Again, it could be different. So things could line up a little differently from how I'm imagining. And I, of course, did not get to see a ton of him with Forge, and certainly none with Huntsville in the MLS Next Pro League. But I do think that Pacius could end up being a partner to Manuel Arteaga the way that we saw this past year between him and Cal Jennings. Where, well, one of them was less a partner and more of a slightly more outside, but also they did play a little bit as partners. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see exactly where Rubens Pasillas lines up, just as you said. And I think that this is somebody that we're getting with a really good reputation for scoring a lot of goals. Wherever he goes, he has scored a lot of goals. His background is Canadian, but his parents are Haitian. So I think that he could end up potentially, depending on how many goals he scores here, he could end up being another international player that the Rowdies have on their roster. And we might have to keep that in mind every so often. I know that Haiti will have some number of games coming up here. I don't know if he will immediately be somebody they call up. But I think that this is just another good sign and another good signing from us. I honestly think that between Castellanos and Pasillas, these are two players that are showing real intent. And I've said this before. I've probably said this several of the last off seasons, but that doesn't mean that I don't mean it. It's just that I think generally the Rowdies have gone out and signed some pretty good players. Ollie Bassett is a Canadian Premier League MVP level player, but Rubens Pasillas is a player in a position that every team everywhere in the world needs. They need a goal scorer who can put in a lot of goals, put in good numbers. And Rubens Pasillas has done that anywhere he's gone, which is not tons and tons of places. But at this point, we should expect that there should be some good number of goals. And I think that him and Manuel Arteaga working together could that could look pretty good. That could look pretty good if you ask me.
Yeah. I mean, 26 goals and 73 appearances for Forge FC is nothing to scoff at. Like, that's pretty good numbers. You're averaging over over a goal every 3 games or so, right? More importantly and more recently in 2024 with Huntsville City FC, where he played 17 games, he scored 8 goals. So almost every other game he's scoring a goal here in Huntsville. So consistency, which is the name of the game for a forward, right? I love his exciting finishing, right? It's fun to watch. But I'll take boring finishing every day over exciting finishing if it means you're scoring a lot of goals.
Exactly.
And he had a lot of pretty, standard forward finishing highlights. If you look through all of his highlights, I mean, he gets it done. He put it in the back of the net in the one-on-one chances. He doesn't really make the mistakes, right? Just a fundamental solid striker. And that's really what you need to be a really good team. Like, you don't need a world beater scoring 25, 35, 40-yard goals. Like, it's just put the ball in the net, and Pasillas seems to be able to do that really well. So I'm really, really excited. Whenever I see like an MLS Next Pro signing, in my head, I'm always like inclined to think depth, right? Just naturally, like I think that's why where my Joey Skinner head goes to, right? I'm thinking depth, but competition for Blake Bodley. But Rubens Pasillas is different. I think this is starting quality, depending on the system we run, right? With Robbie Nielsen at the helm. I do think this is starting quality. And if he keeps this level of consistency, I mean, there's no reason to imagine that with a talented cast around him like the Rowdies have, that he can't score even more goals. So I'm really, really excited. This is a really talented team that we have supporting our strikers and Rubens Pasillas now. So I think there's a pretty good potential for a lot of goals from him this season.
Also, again, Carlos, I got one question for you.
Yes.
Does he immediately win best name on the roster? He's up against. I will say he's up against Pacific.
That was my debate. Is it a better name than Pacific Nyangabire? And I think so. I think Nyangabire is a fantastic name, but Rubens Pasillas is that's a soccer name. Rubens Pasillas is a soccer name. This is a guy I have an Ultimate Team in FIFA back in the day or something. This is a good name. And I'm really excited to see that name in the USL Golden Boot race at the end of the year. So no, I'm not putting that level of expectation on him, but I think he can be really good. So keep that in mind. Nashville, just let him play the whole season with us. Like, I know he's not going to play for Nashville this season. There's no reason to recall him and put him, on Huntsville again. Better competition, better opportunities for him here in the USL.
Yes. Yeah.
Leave him a full season. Just leave him the whole season. Don't think about it, and we'll give him back to you in better shape next year. So this is really great stuff. I hope he sticks around for the whole year. Who knows? Maybe even more. But this is pretty exciting, and I'm really, really thrilled about this one. This could be really good, for sure. For sure.
I agree with all of that. Now let's move on to the second. I guess you could call this another signing, Carlos, but in a different way. We have mentioned a couple of times the obvious connection between Rowdies and especially Huntsville City, let alone Nashville, and that was Nicky Law. Nicky Law spent a little bit of time as the head coach at Huntsville before rejoining the Rowdies as part of the I guess transition team between Neil Collins and ultimately bringing in Robbie Nielsen over the offseason last year, and then he stayed on as an assistant coach. Well, as it turns out, we received an email today, and assumedly this is everywhere else on the Rowdies. Rowdy's assistant coach, Nicky Law, has departed the club to pursue a new coaching opportunity. So our immediate connection to Huntsville is no longer here, which is interesting. But they did replace him today at the same time. So I will go through that now. And I'm just going to read from this because I don't know a ton about this guy personally. But the Tampa Bay Rowdies announced today the addition of assistant coach Steve Coleman to the club's technical staff for the 2025 season. Coleman offers valuable experience at both the club and international levels. He arrives in Tampa Bay following one season as part of fellow USL Championship club Loudoun United's technical staff. And before moving stateside, he served in various roles with New Zealand football over a decade. That included assistant coach and analyst for New Zealand U17, U23 national teams, and helped New Zealand qualify for last summer's Olympics in Paris. So, Carlos, like I said, I don't know a ton about this guy. And we have lost Nicky Law at the same time, but I don't see any reason that this is a negative, bringing in Steve Coleman, and he does have a good background as far as I can see. What are your immediate thoughts, I guess?
I've got nothing, to be honest. I mean, I really don't know, frankly, much about Mr. Steve Coleman. Welcome to the club.
That's fair.
He's surrounded by a great coaching staff, so I imagine he'll learn a lot, and he seems to have, I feel like a hiring manager right now. I'm looking at his resume right now of his his Loudoun United time and, time with New Zealand as well. Yeah, I mean, he seems to have a good mix of experience that I'm sure will add to the Rowdies technical staff. What's his official position called? Just assistant coach? Is that what we're calling it?
As far as I'm aware.
Yeah, it looks like just coming in as an assistant coach. Yeah, so exciting. I'm not quite sure like what his responsibilities are going to entail. I'm not entirely sure, but I'm excited for him. Sure, this will be fun. We've brought in assistant coaches and turned them into, potential head coaches somewhere else. So why not? Let's make him a star. Let's make him a star, James.
All right, there we go. We have our marching orders. And obviously, good luck to Nicky Law. He has served the Rowdies as a player and an assistant coach and an interim head coach, actually, on multiple occasions, Carlos, as we have talked about. So wherever Nicky Law is headed, I don't know if it's back to Huntsville. That would actually be pretty funny, I guess. But either way, Nicky Law has helped us out. So thank you very much. And we do wish him well in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. He had a fun, albeit brief, playing career with us. All the fans in Indy had a million good things to say about him when he came down here.
Yep.
I'm sure plenty of Rowdies fans have great experiences with him as well. Never really had a chance to chat with him, but I mean, clearly had enough trust. The Rowdies front office had enough trust in him to put him as interim head coach. And then not only that, but keep him on the coaching staff as an assistant coach.
Yeah.
After Robbie Nielsen came in, despite frankly a pretty tumultuous, is that a word, tumultuous time under him as well. Wouldn't say it's his fault or anything, just a crazy run of up and down form. And Nicky Law, I'm sure, seems to have the qualities of a great coach. I'm excited for him. I really am. I don't know where he's going to go. It would be pretty funny if he goes to Huntsville again.
I thought of another one. Carlos, do you think it would be worth placing a bet on Nicky Law winding up at Wraith Rovers?
Oh, geez. That would be something, wouldn't it? I mean, at this point, it seems to be that we have this like kind of rotating cycle here with a few different random clubs. Why not add Wraith Rovers to the mix? We could just steal some of their good players as well going forward. Yeah, that'd be a mix for sure. That would be a turn of events. But yeah, good luck to Nicky Law. I'm really fascinated as to where he ends up. It seems to me that it's probably either MLS Next Pro or somewhere in England with all of his connections back home. That would be my guess. But we'll have to see. Good luck to him. Absolutely. Good luck to him.
And our last piece of Rowdies news for the evening is a big one. We received very good news this last week, actually. So it's possible that this has already come across your radar. But if not, the St. Pete City Council has approved funding of repairs at Al Lang Stadium. Carlos, you and I discussed this without discussing it in the past because we went over how the Rowdies schedule is pretty odd for 2025, and there are long blocks of away games as well as long blocks of home games. Well, at the very least, we know that the USL organization worked with the Rowdies and gave us as much time as possible to get the Al Lang repairs done. And at this moment, it appears as though we are on schedule to have everything prepared for what is supposed to be our first home game at Al Lang Stadium. So good stuff from the City of St. Pete Council. I am personally a fan of that. But at the same time, I think that we're all happy that Al Lang is getting what it needs to host games again, because in my opinion, it is a very good place. It's in a great location to host soccer games, certainly. But I think it's a great place to play soccer games. It's got a lot of history. They've got a lot of stuff up at the field now to make it feel like a real soccer stadium. And they've added their own touches to everything, of course. So I'm really happy with this.
Yeah. I mean, I was curious to see how this would all play out. I'm glad we got an update. So it was kind of just the elephant in the room for the next couple of months. Luckily, we have a world-class training facility on Waters Avenue in Tampa that will certainly be home base for the next, couple months or more than that. So yeah, I mean, we've come a long way as a club to the point where that's, we're in a comfortable position despite 2 hurricanes really damaging the stadium. This is no longer the club that would train on, what's the name of the field in Town and Country? It's where I used to play youth soccer my entire life. Schimberg, no longer practicing in the Schimberg soccer complex off of Sheldon. Sorry, no, that's Waters as well, isn't it? Whatever. Point is, I'm really, really excited about this, obviously. It's great to have a little bit of certainty around Al Lang in a time where a lot of stadiums or a lot of teams seem to have stadium, issues. And we know about the Rays, and I think they're playing in the Yankee minor league stadium in Tampa next season. So it's cool that we get to be back at our own home despite everything that happened by April. So it's later than I would hope. Truly, I love having a home game earlier than April 12th, but hey, we'll make do given the situation. The schedule's really, really weird with all these long home games, long away games, back to back to back. But given the situation with back-to-back hurricanes, it's about everything you could ask for. So yeah, I'm excited, James. I'm excited. Maybe we even throw in some upgrades. You already threw in all the money. Let's make it happen.
There we go.
Spice it up a little bit. It needed a facelift, I think, for sure. So maybe we can touch it up a bit in the process. So yeah. Congrats to everyone who was involved in these conversations. I know that can be a mess dealing with city councils and stadium funds and whatnot. So this is really great news. I'm truly excited about that. And again, I think it's just good to have some certainty around the stadium.
Yeah, my only question now, I guess, is where are they going to play their preseason games? Are we going back to IMG? Are we going to do maybe the tour that you and I had discussed at the end of last season around all of Tampa Bay, have a game in Bradenton, a game in Lakeland, a game in Tampa, a game in Pinellas Park or something, I guess.
Yeah. You could knock out all of like the small soccer city. You can do like USF. You do want USF.
It's got to host one for sure. Okay. One location.
You got one at USF. You do one at UT, right, in downtown Tampa. Where else? Like you said, IMG Academy, right? Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of places to play soccer around the Tampa Bay area. I truly hope, like, preseason is a really exciting time. And I know, given the circumstances, it can be a little more difficult to engage the fans because the stadium's under repairs and everything. But what I've been asking for years now, James, and I've talked about it on the podcast, is for the club to give us a really engaging preseason. preseason where we can kind of, be at whatever field we're playing, interacting with the players, watching preseason games in person. There's nothing that irritates me more in the world than well, that's probably an exaggeration. There are things that probably irritate me more in the world, but something that irritates me in the world is 6 to 7 scheduled preseason games against an undisclosed opponent at an undisclosed location. Shout out Lexington, by the way, for their undisclosed match against Messi. But you get what I'm saying. It's frustrating when we get the fans get the release and it's here's the Rowdy schedule and it's against so and so. But I'm not going to tell you where we play. I'm not going to tell you what time we play either. So you have to figure it out. You can show up maybe, but you know what I'm saying? I'm hoping we get a little more engaging preseason this year than we've had in the past couple seasons. We used to be pretty good at this. Really, we used to have a lot more open games and ticketed games we could go see. I hope something's in the works, but honestly, with the stadium issues and not really having a home base over there, I'm not really sure I'm super optimistic about a ton of open preseason games, but there should be at least a couple. I mean, there's plenty of places to play around here. I would love to pass by the Waters Avenue complex and watch an open preseason scrimmage against some random League 2 squad or something. Grab a sandwich at the Wawa in the parking lot. I think the Rowdies fans appreciate those little interactions and not really in the traditional stadium environment games and scrimmages, up close kind of feel of the game. I think Rowdies fans appreciate that a lot more than it might seem, if that makes any sense. They're pretty meaningful stuff. So I'm just, long story short, I hope we can have a great preseason, open preseason, get a lot of fun games to go to. But more importantly, I'm glad we have a stadium to play in a couple months, in a few months. So
absolutely
good news.
All right. Well, with that, we will wrap up our Rowdies coverage and move on to the USL itself, because the USL is also taking note from the Rowdies, or the Rowdies are taking note from the USL. I'm not sure which, but there are a lot of signings going around, including Miami naming their coach for 2025. We'll see exactly how long this lasts, but they have named head coach Gaston Madoni, with technical staff coming soon. I don't know about this guy at all. His background is it's entirely in Argentina. He has been involved, I think, it was Boca Juniors and I believe Racing Club. So that there's some, definitely good level of competition there. Argentinian league is among the most passionate people in the world for soccer. So you have to keep that in mind. And we'll see exactly how Miami turn out. I don't know what they're doing in terms of other players. We know that they have Boluak and Yode coming back, but otherwise, that's where Miami stands right now, Carlos.
Yeah, this is looks like his only coaching experience is as an assistant coach at Racing Club. And before that, he was in a scouting role for, like you said, Argentinos Juniors, River Plate, as well as Boca Juniors for a long time. He was at Boca Juniors for 14 years in scouting, youth coaching at River Plate and Argentinos Juniors. So definitely a mixed bag of experience for sure. I don't really know what to make of this. I don't know if they're, hedging, going for a unproven high potential coach, or if they just don't really have a budget for anybody right now. Not that he's not a great quality coach or anything, but it's kind of a random pickup to be honest. TBH. Yeah, I don't know what's happening there, but truly, I don't really know what's happening with Miami FC as a whole. So it's not really surprising that they have a random coach signing out of nowhere. Good luck to them, I guess. I mean, except when they play the Rowdies as always. But I do hope they kind of figure something out down there, James.
Yeah, I agree. I think that their ownership group is largely Argentine, so maybe this is part of it. But regardless, there's also a lot of talent down there if that's where they're scouting. Apparently, if that's his background, I'm sure he can find some players and
for sure
probably make a decent team out of them. Moving up to Birmingham Legion, Trejo, of all people. Danny Trejo has left his club in Poland, where I believe he only spent roughly a year after leaving his prior club in USL. And he's come back to the league, but joined one of our direct competitors here in the Southeast. So that's going to suck for us. At the same time, I guess that it will be pretty exciting for the Southeast region in the USL Championship and within the Jägermeister Cup. Carlos, this is a bummer for us. How are you taking this one?
Uh, I'm taking it pretty well, James. I'm not particularly moved, honestly. This Birmingham squad, like they had a good year last year. I think they'll kind of regress to a more middle of the table Birmingham squad. It's a good pickup for sure. Um, I don't know what this like trend is of like going to random clubs and random parts of Europe for a year and then coming back to the USL. Like I'm not really
Yeah.
sure what the deal is with that for a lot of these players. I think, yeah, I mean, I think Birmingham fans have reason to be excited, but I don't think this moves the needle like a ton for me, to be honest. It's a good signing though. It's a good signing. I think they'll kind of stick around where I think they are. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe I'm, downplaying it a bit, but yeah, I mean, I think the top teams in the East are still pretty clear for me. Your Louisville, right? Your Charleston, and I think I'm biased, but I'm pretty inclined to put this Rowdy squad, especially with these last few signings, up there as well. Maybe Pittsburgh in that 4th or 5th spot right now in like my off-season power rankings, but yeah, I mean it's a good pickup. It's a good pickup for sure.
Pittsburgh is a very good segue to our next signing because this is surely going to be a bummer for you if the last one was
Yeah,
not.
yeah,
Augie Williams has joined the Pittsburgh Riverhounds for the 2025 campaign. Somebody that I think you've said on your Christmas wish list every time that we've done that.
yeah, yeah. He's a rowdy man. Like at some point, he's got to come down here and play for us because he's one of my favorite like random USL strikers that puts up consistent numbers every year. Yeah, he's going to help Pittsburgh a lot. He's going to help Pittsburgh. I think this makes them a really, truly like this is one of the signings that makes a team better because you have goal scoring numbers off the bat, just
Yeah.
consistent goal scoring. This is really good for them. So, unfortunate. It's unfortunate also he's sticking around in the East. Like I wish my favorite players would just go out west, so I wouldn't have to think about them. But yeah, this is a good move for Pittsburgh. A bad move for the rest of the conference for sure.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. He obviously has a lot more to give, and I guess it will be on the Riverhounds turf. I would like to see a game there, though. Maybe I will try and go up when the Rowdies play.
Yeah.
The last two signings that we have to mention both involve Louisville City, and they are one coming, one going, and they're both very interesting.
Yeah.
The first one, Lou City have signed on loan from MLS Kevin Lambert, Jamaican international Kevin Lambert. That is a pretty interesting move because he can play as a center back. He mostly has played as a central midfielder, especially in the USL. He's played as a defensive midfielder. They have a couple of players within that position. One of those was academy player Carlos Mogel. So I don't know if this means that they are not expecting him to play as much this season or if they just wanted to jump on the best available defensive option. And this follows, obviously, their sale last week, which we discussed, Wilson Harris to a club in Israel. So they've got some money rolling around. I don't know how much that was for, but they definitely are working with some amount of money here. And Kevin Lambert, that's going to be a good signing for them.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, he's a ridiculously solid defensive midfielder. I mean, he just always has good games. He's part of that insanely good Phoenix squad that went like however many games unbeaten. He's like a core piece of that really, really good squad. And he still has that talent. I mean, it's not like that was particularly long ago. He's only 27. He's in his prime athletically, like really, really good signing for Louisville. I think this is one of those things where it's like the rich kind of just get richer, which is I'm sure how they feel about some of the pickups we've had as well. But this is kind of this is almost a household name in the USL from its time with Phoenix. So this is a really, really big pickup for Louisville on loan from RSL. So yeah, good pickup for them. Unfortunate again for the rest of the conference. For us, I think he's going to make that center part of the field a lot harder to get through for whatever team they're up against. Unfortunately. Yeah.
That is true. And while the rich get richer, that is true both literally and physically here because Lou City, after selling Wilson Harris to a club in Israel, have sold another player to another club, this time in MLS. Elijah Winder, one of their academy players and brother to Josh Winder, who they sold 2 years ago now, has been sold to LA Galaxy. So they are wheeling and dealing, and they are making actually quite a bit of money. Some
Yeah.
of it off direct academy players, which means they're effectively making entirely profit, because as much as you're going to put in money for a player's travel, a player's boots, a player's equipment, you're making a lot more money if you sell him to, let's say, Benfica in Portugal or LA Galaxy in MLS. So
Yeah.
the Winder brothers have both gone on to bigger and better things than Louisville City. First of all, I'm happy for them. I'm happy that the Rowdies do not have to deal with either of the Winder brothers being at Lou City. But at the same time, this is going to mean downstream effects where they reinvest this money, get other players involved and everything. And I guess players like Kevin Lambert are the ones who are going to fill these positions. We are lagging behind, at least in the academy, when it comes to selling players like this. I think we're catching up otherwise, but Louisville City are really setting the curve on this one, at least for academy players, not for total players sold. That's probably still Orange County, but yeah, very, very impressive. In all honesty, very impressive from Louisville City. Extremely impressive from both the Winders and their family. Carlos says thumbs down, though.
Lame. I don't care. I just want the Rowdies to win and be better. Look, I'm still pissed off at him for scoring that stoppage time goal against us in the playoffs.
That's perfectly fair.
To knock us out. So I'm still pretty pissed off about that. Still kind of fresh in my mind. So I don't know. Whatever. Good luck, I guess. But get out of the league. I'm done. I'm done with it. But Louisville, man, like the cash flow is it's working for them right now. So. And by the way, like if you look back at this offseason, like we've mentioned them a couple times, but it's not like they've gone out and signed like a bunch of players either. It's a lot of their core, most of their core has stuck around, kind of like the Rowdies, and they haven't really gone out and made a ton of pickups. And even one of their biggest pickups of the offseason, Kevin Lambert, is on loan. It's not like they paid like a ton to pick him up or anything, if at all. Like they're really just paying for his salary, presumably. I don't know how the contract works for that, but they're not really going out and paying Salt Lake like a bunch of money, if any. I don't really know how the contract works for this one, but whatever. Yeah, Louisville is in a great spot right now. They're selling a lot of players, and they're not bringing in a lot of players. So they're probably in a great place financially in that sense. But it's unfortunate for us because I think they're still going to be really good next year, obviously, despite losing the Winder brothers finally. But it is what it is. They were always going to be good. I mean, that wasn't going to change from one season to the next. So and we're getting better. So I'm not too concerned. I think we'll have a great matchup for the 1 and 2 spot next year. Making my call early. Okay, James. I think that's about it on the USL front for what we had. Anything else we should mention for now?
No. At this point, we can get into our extra time segment. And I should say that next week, we're going to have a real special guest coming on. We have already had Seb Dalgard on the show over this offseason. He was a great interview, and he had so much insight for us. Obviously, we love when we can talk to any Rowdies players, but there are definitely players who will give you a lot more information than you even expected, let's say. And Seb Dalgard gave us a ton of information. So this week, we have another member of the Rowdies 100 Club. Just like Seb Dalgard made over 100 appearances for the club, and we will have him on. I guess we'll keep that a little secret. I'm sure you'll see it when it comes out. But the other part of the episode that we have coming up, finally, Carlos, I was able to nail down that pesky producer of ours, Eureka, and get him to do the Hot Ones challenge. And we have that in the works right now. The date is ready. We are just working on I guess Eureka, not we, but our producer Eureka is just working on the editing of the video, and then all of that will be put together and put onto the show that we have coming out next week. So finally, folks, there is a date on this. The challenge is done. You will see soon the after effects of Eureka doing the Hot Ones challenge. Carlos, I'm personally excited for this week for both of those reasons, possibly more the interview coming up than the interview already done with Eureka, but I think everybody should tune in for those.
It'll be fun. It'll be good ones. The player, I'm excited about it. I won't even say anything because once I start talking, I feel like I give things away. So it'll be a good interview that we'll have for next week. Absolutely.
All right. Well, pay attention for that, and you will see it in your feed, assuming that you follow us everywhere you can. So,
Mhm.
listeners, if you would like, please follow us at RBLR Sports on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, Threads, Blue Sky, anywhere you are, we are too. Please follow me if you are so inclined. I am mostly on Twitter at this point, and that is at RBLR James K. You can use the hashtag AskRBLR, or you can reach out to Carlos. Where could they do that?
At Carlos TPA10 on Twitter, tweeting about for Rowdies. Finally, it feels like it's finally time to start tweeting about the Rowdies and the off season and everything, and the preseason is full swing. Like, it's just awesome. It's an awesome time of year. Yeah, definitely be sure to follow me and James and follow the podcast to get notified when we're live. I always love going live because I don't know, it feels more like natural. It feels like we can chat with folks. Always use hashtag AskRBLR. Get stuff on docket for next week. And James, let's have a good one next week for sure.
Let's have a good one. Thank you, listeners, for tuning in. Please like and subscribe to our podcast. You can get the full experience on YouTube, but we are also on Spotify, the iHeartRadio app, Apple, and Google Podcasts. Again, wherever you are, that's where we are as well. For another week in the books, closer to the start of the 2025 season, and an interview coming up with a former Rowdies player. Come on, you Rowdies.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.